Good evening, my gorgeous ghouls, and welcome to Midnight Visitor, the show for those who want to know that this world isn't all there is. Tonight we'll be taking a peculiar journey into the occult, otherworldly, unusual, and bizarre. So tuck in tight because the clock just struck midnight. I'm your ghost, Dean Dream, and this is Midnight Visitor. I'm positively chilled that you could join us this evening. I'm joined tonight by my illustrious co-ghost, Dustin T. Dust, and he's absolutely crawling out of his skin to greet you. Say hello, Dustin. Oh, don't mind him. He can be a bit cold. This evening finds us on the border of Guilford and North Madison, Connecticut, home of the haunted Twin Bridge Road and the legendary disappearance of the Little Genesee settlement. Our story begins in roughly 1770, where, as legend has it, a group of settlers headed for the fertile Genesee Valley in New York ran into a bit of a transportation issue. Their wagon wheel fell off, and, well, rather than fix it, they decided to set up camp right there, because why not? The rest of the world was theirs for the taking, so why not just stick that flag into the infertile, inhospitable, unfarmable soil? What could possibly go wrong? Well, plenty apparently, because by 1850, all signs of life in the settlement were gone. All that remained were the stone foundations of homes, and you can still see these foundations standing on the site today, though they're now on land owned by the Regional Water Authority. A few unconfirmed accounts also talk about some sort of stone celestial calendar erected on the site, but you'll have to see that one for yourself. In more recent decades, the mystery shrouding Little Genesee has seeped out into the surrounding area. One particularly notable case of this is the nearby Twin Bridge Road. With its winding curves, lack of streetlights, and deep woods, there's an undeniable darkness attached to this street. Local teenagers have whispered for decades about mysterious figures appearing in rearview windows and an abandoned house on the street that boasts a host of paranormal activity. The stories around this house span the gamut of classic haunted house stories, from doors opening and closing on their own to shadowy figures seen in windows, to lights turning off and on again when no one is home. Remind you of someone? Is it just local legend, or are there particularly unwieldy energies remaining in the area today? Our paranormal consultant, Kenneth Brenda, went to the threatening thoroughfare to find out for himself. Let's take a look at what he found. Thanks, Dean. I'm here at Twin Bridge Road, the site of the disappearance of the Little Genesee settlement. It was many years ago that an entire village of settlers disappeared, leaving behind only the ghosts, paranormal activity, and mysterious occurrences that haunt the winding road today. I'm Kenneth Brenda, paranormal investigator. Follow me. It was on this very dark and twisted road that the settlers disappeared. I'm here at the gate of the house that was rumored to once be the most haunted house on the entirety of Twin Bridge Road. Now all that remains is a foundation, a rusty bit of metal, and a little diaper. What happened here is too sinister to speak of. Local kids said there was a drug deal gone bad. How likely is that? We don't know. However, I can tell you, there's a very sinister energy permeating the air in the area today. Now tonight, we're gonna try to get a better look at what was once the most paranormal property in all of Guilford and North Madison. Doing a little redescent tonight. Coming up on the property, I'm already feeling a bit of a ghostly chill. There's a little bit of a pressure on my bladder. It's making me a little bit uncomfortable. Now whether or not that's a ghost or I have to urinate remains to be seen. Now the question is, what happened here that led to such disarray? Ticker tape that hasn't been touched in 25 years. Now this ghost tallied up several transactions that didn't even show up on the paper. How mysterious is that? The ghost who lives here was obsessed with money. Maybe something mysterious happened, where someone robbed someone else, and then they both disappeared and became ghosts at the same time. It's just the sense I'm getting here. I wouldn't want to be trapped in there for the rest of eternity, I'll tell you that much. Let's go this way. Marks in the dirt tell tales of ancient transportation that hasn't been heard of in 30 years. Tonight, we're investigating what's in this ball. So big. Now, as you can tell, it's incredibly dangerous. As we take this into the light, we'll see exactly what's happening in this bottle that hasn't been open for 15 years. It's a treacherous path we walk down Twin Bridge Road, but ultimately, these are the necessary steps to take to get answers. I'm gonna open it up and see what's inside. Maybe a relic from the past. We can't be sure. Water that hasn't been drank in 15 years. One of the many haunting things you can find here on Twin Bridge Road in Guilford, Connecticut. And that just goes to show you that if you address the spirits with... During the original site of the disappearance of the Little Genesee settlement, locals rumored that there were angry roosters crowing into the night. Right now, it's 7:31. Why would there be a rooster signaling the start of a new day? I think the canister we found on the side of the road earlier was housing a demonic spirit. And right now I feel confident that we've awakened something very evil in these woods. For Midnight Visitor, I'm Kenneth, paranormal investigator. Back to you, Dean. Well, that was nothing. But luckily tonight we have a first-hand experience from the long and winding Twin Bridge Road. Our guest this evening grew up in the area and had heard tell of the haunting happenings at the abandoned house on the street. They didn't believe it until they experienced something chilling for themselves. Here's Rex to tell their story. Welcome to the Dream Manor, Rex.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a joy to be here.
I'm so pleased. And now, tell us about when you first heard about Twin Bridge Road and what you heard about the hauntings on Twin Bridge Road.
Well, when I was a child or an adolescent, there was whisperings of some hauntings around there, some, you know, scary occurrences that people had encountered. I think middle school, maybe people started talking about it. It seemed like the kind of thing that maybe existed in the world of middle school. So that was kind of it's like teenagers were talking about it to younger kids.
Right.
But basically, it was just like the place that we knew to be haunted.
Yeah.
And it was kind of I remember like being close to driving age, and it was kind of like a rite of passage to drive down the scary road at night. And some people talked about there was a house there that had been involved in some sort of, mass casualty event, either with the family or with, there was rumors of drug cartel activity, although that does sound insane now that I say it out loud. So it was kind of a vague, ghostly presence that was kind of there throughout my childhood.
Right.
Yeah.
Your classic run-of-the-mill.
Playground ghost story.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so what happened to you?
Well, here's the thing. I kind of was like, it's fun to think that it's scary and to scare yourself when you drive down the road and you play scary music in the car. I remember doing that a few times. But I must have been maybe 17 because I was new to driving and I was alone in the car. And it was, I think, midsummer. It must have been midsummer because there's a detail about the story that will adds context. But so I'm driving down the road. It's dusk, maybe 8:30, 9 o'clock, coming back from a friend's house. And I am looking down the road. There's a bend in the road. And that's sort of adjacent to the scary abandoned house. And I remember seeing a woman that she was walking her dog, and I sort of didn't think anything of it, although I was kind of, I was predisposed to being scared of driving down this road. So, but also skeptical that it was, any of the stories were real. So I'm driving down, but I noticed this woman is wearing a parka, an all white, like down winter parka. Yeah.
Ooh.
Remember, this is midsummer. So
Sure.
not a particularly scary garment, but in the context, it stuck out to me.
Right.
And she was walking her dog, and as I'm driving down, I'm getting to the bend in the road, and I'm sort of keeping an eye on her just out of curiosity. I'm like, why is this woman dressed on this 80-degree day in this down parka?
Sure.
And as I came around the bend, I wanted to, I was looking for more information on her, just trying to get a read. And I came around the bend and I turned to look, and I looked into the hood of the parka, and there was just nothing. It was blank.
No face.
No face.
Oh.
And I looked at her dog, and her dog was sort of imperceptible in some way. It was very scary. I think the expectation was that it would be a woman that looked normal but weird,
Right.
due to the parka, but she just simply had no face at all.
Thank you, Rex, for sharing that demented tale. Let us know if you visit Twin Bridge Road, and if you see the faceless woman yourself, be sure to take a picture so I can show it to my plastic surgeon. Sounds like it's time for a visitor voicemail. Let's see what the black cat dragged in this time. Our story this week comes from a viewer named Coley.
Our dog didn't want to go inside when we first brought her to the house. She took some convincing. Granted, the previous tenants of this almost dilapidated Texas mansion had decided to paint most of the downstairs the darkest, almost black blue, which made it feel like the walls were closing in on you. The only thing I remember for the first year was that lights flickered downstairs, but probably just old faulty wiring. Sometimes I felt like there was someone sitting in my living room, but I'd let that thought come in and go right back out. 2 months before we were preparing to host our friends for our wedding last November, things got weird. Out of nowhere, the smell of death consumed our upstairs closet. We figured a squirrel had died somewhere in the wall, as one had before, and the smell would be gone in a week tops, just like last time. The lights in the closet began flickering, strobing at random. I changed the bulbs. It didn't matter. They flickered on and on. The dog, who never liked sleeping in our bed, who always preferred her crate to the right of the foot of the bed, started sleeping with us as soon as the smell started. Weeks went by. The smell stayed firmly occupying the upstairs closet. Pest guys would come, refusing to go into the attic, which always blew my mind. They would spray something for the smell, which never worked, and leave. I had a painting propped against the wall on the bathroom counter in our bedroom. Twice it ended up on the floor. Once we heard it happen. The strange thing was it didn't fall over. If it had, it would have knocked over the delicate perfume bottles and jewelry stand that were in front of it. Instead, it seemed that it had jumped over these things to land on the floor. The second time after hearing it hit the floor with no logical explanation as to how it landed there without knocking anything over, I just moved the painting to a different closet. My brain just said, she just doesn't like this painting, whoever she is. A couple nights later, I woke up to a noise coming from the dog's crate, a rattling. My husband shot up, asking me if I heard it. Half asleep, I said, yeah, it's just the dog doing something in her crate. Wide-eyed, he said, but the dog is in bed with us. I turned my head to look at her, in bed, still hearing the noise from the crate. I said, I'm going back to sleep, pulled the covers over my head, and managed to tap out right back into unconsciousness. That experience felt too scary, too real, too close to deal with. I felt that nothing good was going to happen from me getting up to investigate. As long as nothing was touching me, I was going to ignore it. The week of the wedding, defeated by my attempts to eradicate or comprehend how the death smell could still be occupying our closet in full force after months, our friends arrived to stay with us. We threw a party and spent time talking ghost stories and going over what the house had been up to. Later that week, we all went out, but one friend stayed in for the night. After we'd been gone an hour, she said that Frank Sinatra's My Way started absolutely blasting out of the speakers downstairs, promoting her to come downstairs yelling, hello, to see who had come home. But no one was there. She recollected wondering what the ghost had wanted to impart upon her by playing that specific song. Immediately after the wedding, other friends of ours touring stayed with us. One friend, staying in the room downstairs by the front door, saw some smoky shadows during the day in the hallway and had his smoke alarm in his room go off in the middle of the night for 30 seconds for no apparent reason. He swore there was something more supernatural going on with the house. One afternoon after they left, in a momentary fit of emotion, I yelled at the house, I love you, you old smelly haunted house. I accept you. The smell left the next day, completely gone. The light stopped flickering. Everything quieted down, and we lived in harmony with the house for a while. Then we decided to move. The house was so large that I kept most of the doors to the rooms closed and never opened them. I wanted to keep the cats out, so I didn't have to worry about vacuuming or anything. These doors started to be open. I blamed my husband. I asked him why he was in those rooms, why he couldn't close a door. He said he didn't go in there. And then doors that I usually left open began to slam behind me. I blamed a draft, even though the Texas heat meant no open windows. Our friends came through on tour again and stayed with us. This time, the friend swore he saw a white apparition in my bedroom window while we were outside one afternoon. My mother came to stay to help me pack. I didn't tell her anything about the house's activities. The first morning after she stayed, she greeted me by asking which one of us was coming down the stairs at 4 a.m. I told her neither of us. She couldn't believe it. I didn't think much of it, but she was clearly shaken by it. She swore she heard a person, not an animal, coming down the stairs early that morning. She heard it again the next day. When it was time for her to leave the following day, she didn't want to be left at home alone to wait for the Uber. She left when I left for work and waited at the top of the driveway to be picked up. A week away from our move-out date, my husband and I were in the living room one night, which had a grand stone fireplace in the center, bordered by 2 glass doors on each side that went out to a screened-in patio. We always used the door to the left of the fireplace, never the one to the right. As we sat there watching the movie, the door to the right began to creak open. Our door, who in guard dog behavior would normally act aggressively towards anyone or any noise coming into the house, started barking and running away from the door, scared. My husband was scared. I jumped up, scolding him for not knowing how to properly close a door still and asking when he even used this door last. I shut the door tight and locked the handle for good measure, refusing to play into it any further. We were almost out of the house. I didn't need things to get weird again. The very next night, again watching a movie in the living room, that same door swung open, scaring us both. I jumped out, asking how in the world did he again manage to use and then improperly close the door. He swore he hadn't. When I went to close the door, I realized the handle was still locked. There was no explanation for how the door had opened itself while still locked. We moved out later that week, my husband being a bit of a jumpy mess for the rest of our days there, and I feel much better about not living there anymore.
I once called pest control on Dustin, but the poor exterminator said he wasn't qualified to be moving old bags of bones. Oh look, my illustrious co-ghost is trying desperately to get my attention now. Let's see what he has to say. I've certainly enjoyed our time of terror here this evening. And if you have a story of the bizarre, paranormal, inexplicable, or unusual that you'd like to share with us, and maybe have it featured on the show, email us at midnightvisitor1984@gmail.com. Or you can call our voicemail line at 475-209-2099. I also give tours of New Haven's most haunted sites, live and in person. For more information, visit usghostadventures.com. And as you fall asleep tonight, remember that there is so much more to our world than that which we can see, touch, and taste. Often, the inexplicable is lurking right beneath our noses. All we have to do is take a whiff. Until next time, I'll see you in a dream.